Hello there, and welcome to another episode of WFAN Daily with your host, Pete Hoffman. Happy New Year. Happy end of the NFL season for the New York Jets and New York Giants. And the last, before we get to the Jets and Giants, let's just talk about the finale of the NFL regular season between the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Baltimore Ravens. And it was crazy tight back and forth game, close game. You have a crazy touchdown that Aaron Rodgers throws to Austin in the end zone after the cornerback slips, basically wins the game right there. Boswell, though, misses the extra point to only put the Steelers up by 2, which then gives Ravens life. All they got to do is kick a field goal. 4th and 7. Lamar Jackson throws a ball that Isaiah Likely goes up and grabs and gets and catches, makes a phenomenal catch, puts the Baltimore Ravens in what looks like an easy field goal range to win the game, and then the kicker, Loop, misses. And the Pittsburgh Steelers go on to make the final playoff spot in an amazing game. And all I could think about as Aaron Rodgers is getting his accolades and getting congratulations and, for making the playoffs again. And that was the whole buildup of Aaron Rodgers, going to the Pittsburgh Steelers for another run, maybe one last run, whatever the case is. And all I could think of is, if only the New York Jets had a quarterback like Aaron Rodgers. Like that, to me, that would be chef's kiss, right? Oh, wait a second. He was on the Jets for the past 2 seasons, and they were awful. And guess what? He's not on the team, and they're still awful. I think and fully believe Woody Johnson looks at himself in the mirror, and as he rocks his New York Jets shirt or hat or whatever it is, I think he sees Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he sees Kansas City Chiefs. I think he sees Chicago Bears or Green Bay Packers or any of these teams that have been successful in recent years, or a team that's been sustainable. Like Pittsburgh Steelers have had sustainable success. They've been a team that maybe they haven't made the playoffs every year with Mike Tomlin, but they've come close to it. If they miss out, it's by like a smidge. They don't have these awful seasons where they're picking 1st overall or 2nd overall. Like, they're not bad. They always hang around. And I think Woody Johnson believes that the Jets are just that team. They're close, and hey, let's go for it. We can't draft a quarterback, so let's go and get a veteran quarterback. And I'm sorry, you're not coached like a professional team. You're not run like a professional NFL team. Your staff, your players, your roster are not professional NFL players. You're just not a good franchise. And I saw Rich Samini put a tweet out. I think it was, if the NFL could, they should relegate the Jets. And I think everybody feels that way. They might have won 3 games this season. By the way, I think 2 of the wins came because of special teams, not because of defense, not because of offense, but because of special teams. If it wasn't because of special teams this year, they'd have no points. They are a poorly run franchise, and this is going back not to just this year with Darren Muji and Aaron Glenn. This goes back to previous years, because all I heard about was Joe Douglas is an unbelievable GM, and he knows how to get a roster. He knows how to put together a team. He knows drafts. He knows this. He knows that. You know what he knows? Absolutely nothing, according to what this team built this year. A 3-14 team that got smoked basically virtually every game they got smoked. It wasn't competitive. They are a terrible team. And this roster is basically Joe Douglas in a nutshell. You know, let's talk about this. All the times we've talked about the Giants, and I don't want to bring them into it just yet, but the Giants, you talk about the GMs that have turned over, in the past few years, whether it's Gettleman before that, and right now Joe Shane's there, right? Well, Joe Shane got a lot of or Dave Gettleman got a lot of flack for his roster, but we realized that a lot of the players that currently Joe Shane has from the Gettleman regime, and they're working out. Some of those players are working out better than anything else on this team. Shane's done has had some good finds, but then you look at the Jets and you go, okay, Darren Muji, year one, what did he end up doing? He traded away Quinton Williams. He traded away Sauce Gardner. Thank goodness for that. He got rid of those two players who, yes, Joe Douglas brought in. But that being said, he didn't trade the whole team. He didn't cut ties with everybody. I mean, the biggest change is that Aaron Rodgers didn't return, and neither did Devontae Adams, which, by the way, remember that, unbelievable move by the Jets upper management going, let's go and cater a team to Aaron Rodgers because we're that close. That's the issue. They thought they were that good of a team that they could compete in the NFL year in and year out, or even in 1 year, compete close enough to get to a playoffs. They are not run well. End of story. And you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers and go, that's how a team is supposed to be run. That's what the Jets would like to be. The Jets would like to be run like a team that the change of quarterback is all you need to get into the playoffs. That's a 10-7 team this year. The Pittsburgh Steelers, were they fantastic? No, they weren't the best team in the NFL, but they are what Woody Johnson wants to be. And I believe that's what Woody Johnson thinks he is the Pittsburgh Steelers. And they're just not that. They are exact opposite of that. They are zero talent, zero ability with the head coaching. And if they're going to bring back Aaron Glenn, and I heard the rumors that he's safe and sound, if you tell me that John Harbaugh is unavailable, he doesn't get let go, that Cliff Kingsbury doesn't look for another job, if there's certain people that are unavailable, like John Gruden's not looking for a job, Bill Belichick doesn't look for a job, if you're telling me that these names aren't available, you know what? Fine. Bring Aaron Glenn back. But if there is somebody of substance, somebody, a veteran, a coach that has had experience, especially a winning coach that has had experience, becomes available like a Mike Vrabel from last season, you have to cut ties with Aaron Glenn immediately. And I don't care about hurt feelings. I don't care about how bad of a look it is for you to break ties with the coach after only 1 year. The focus should not be on feelings. The focus should be on, we need to change this organization. We need to change this presence. And Darren Muji, guess what? You're the GM, not Aaron Glenn. I know Aaron Glenn picked you to be the GM, but guess what? Have some balls on you, bro. If this did not work out at all, the team, I understand you traded away two of the better players, but by the way, it's not like Sauce Gardner was doing anything spectacular with the Colts either, okay? He was on this roster where they were bad. When he went to the Colts, they got worse. He's not a good player. So let's not say that, Sauce Gardner was a special player that once they cut ties with him, once the Jets cut ties with him, that the Jets just went downhill. The Jets were always downhill. Let's just call it like it is. But the Jets have now gotten worse, and they show no sign of life whatsoever, and that's on the coach. Listen, Brian Daboll, whether or not it was a good idea to cut ties with him when they did with the Giants, I disagree. I like Daboll. I think that he actually was onto something. You could see the offense was much better this year. The defense was the biggest part of this collapse this year, this 4-13 record for the New York Giants. That was the biggest problem, was basically the defense. They found ways to blow games that no team has found ways to blow before. It was just phenomenal how at all levels, you could be up by 20 points. We're going to blow that lead. A double-digit lead was never a safe thing. But I liked Brian Daboll. I think Mike Kafka came in and did a decent enough job. Won 2 of the last couple games, 2 of the last 6 games that he coached or whatever it was. I think he's 2-4 on the season. And it did a serviceable job. Showed signs that this team can play. You could sit there and say what you want about the fact that the Giants beat the Cowboys. That what were they really playing for? They pulled their starters at the end of the first half. But the Giants were up at the end of the first half, which is kind of what they've been doing all season long. They've found ways to be winning games by double-digit points a ton of times. They just couldn't close out. But the past 2 weeks they did. They showed signs of life. And I got to be honest with you, I'm in that locker room every weekend, and it was never, even at their worst, excuse me, even at the Giants' worst, it never felt like that locker room was ready to break. I understand that there was a couple moments where we saw some outrage from certain players because of how they lost games. And that's acceptable. That's understandable. When you have in Denver, when you have a lead the way they had it, and basically in a blink of an eye in the fourth quarter, you end up giving up, I think, 30-plus points, or whatever the point total was. I forget the score of the game right now. But 30-plus points to the Denver Broncos in the fourth quarter is embarrassing. It's unacceptable. It truly is. And everybody on that team knew it. Everybody on the Giants knew it. That was unacceptable. That was a win they in hand, and they literally gave that game away. But even after that, the Giants locker room never felt broken at all. And even with these last 2 games, yes, were they meaningless wins? Did they screw up their draft pick? They weren't going to draft a quarterback. So what the hell did it really make a difference? It's more important to show signs of life, show signs that you can actually work with this quarterback, work with this offensive line, that the defense, look at who woke up over the past few weeks. Abdul Carter woke up. I mean, we talk about a guy who was non-existent the first half of the season, was, getting, missing drives and missing plays and whatnot because he was getting basically, not suspended, but was in trouble. It was benched for certain parts of the games because of things he did or the way he was behaving during the week. And the discipline that Mike Kafka kicked in changed the way Abdul Carter played. You're not just going to get time because we drafted you. You got to earn your playing time. You don't start because we picked you in the first round. You start because you earned it. You deserve that. The Jets, I believe Aaron Glenn, that from day one, what did he do? Xavier Gibson cut from the team because he fumbled the ball. Can't do that on my watch. Well, how about the lack of discipline on the New York Jets the entire season? Dumb penalties, bad plays, 0 interceptions. Where is the accountability on that? That's what we're talking about here. Differences, levels of difference. You got to be held accountable. And though the Giants and Jets have very similar records, they played completely different football the entire season. And one team was held accountable. One team wasn't. And you could sit there and say that, well, they both had bad records and they both lost at the end of the season. True. They both were terrible. They both combined for 7 wins, okay? They wouldn't have made the playoffs together. That's how bad they were. If they were in the NFC South, they still wouldn't have made they still would have missed the playoffs with only 7 wins. Okay? But that being said, the Giants are at least making the steps in the right direction, and now they just got to land the coach. They just got to figure it out. I'd bring back Mike Kafka. I'd bring back a lot of the coaching staff from this team because they worked well with the offense. The defense, by the way, started playing better again, and were able to hold on to leads, which is pretty nice. But you just need the head coach to kind of put it all together. The Jets, you just got to wipe the slate clean. I'm sorry. And if one of those coaches, like that I mentioned earlier, if John Harbaugh comes available, boom, pick him up. Say, listen, we will do whatever. Don't take a year off. Don't relax. We will give you the keys. Just fix us, please. That's all we're asking. You get to have control. You get to do what you want to do, however you want to do it. Do you want to draft a quarterback? Do you want to go and get a free agent quarterback? Do you want us to trade? Whatever it is you want to do, we will do. But we want you. Here are the keys. That's what the Jets need to do. Woody Johnson, if you want to look in the mirror and think that you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, go out there and get a head coach who at least has some sort of credibility before he walks in the door. No more hot coordinators. Hey, by the way, again, I love the Detroit Lions. I love what they built. Notice how the coordinators, offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator left, and that team kind of fell off this year a little bit, which was kind of expected because you have the coach that keeps things together, but you also have the coordinators that make it work. They make it work for their respective sides of the field. You lose you lose the coordinators, you lose a lot. And sometimes there are guys who are just better coordinators than head coaches. And Dan Campbell, not saying that he's a bad coach, but he missed pieces. He missed his coordinators this year, and that's why they lost, in my opinion. Jets, they lost because they suck. That's it. That's the end of the story. Now, again, second pick overall for the Jets, they're going to go for a quarterback. Should they go for a quarterback? That depends on who they get as a head coach. They bring in a head coach, and he wants to go and draft a quarterback with that second overall pick. By all means, go for it. But if he says free agency, if he says let's trade for one, if he doesn't like the crop of quarterbacks that are out there, then you move on. You trade the pick. You figure out anything else but drafting a quarterback that high. And I know most people be like, you got to draft a quarterback. You got to draft a quarterback. No, you don't. Because history says when the Jets draft a quarterback, it usually doesn't work out. So you don't have to draft a quarterback. You just need a proper head coach. Thank you very much for listening to another episode of WFAN Daily. I will be on Monday with my new show, The Carton Show. I will be producing, board up in that, be part of that show. It's The Carton Show with Chris McMonagle, of course, as well. So I will be on that on WFAN, so you can hear me Monday and Friday with those guys, Craig Carton and Chris McMonagle, on WFAN from 2 p.m. to about 7 p.m., 6 p.m. For the most part, but 7 p.m. depending on how, if there's a game going on, maybe we have to run a little bit longer. But between the hours of 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. for sure. You can even catch us on TV 4 to 6 p.m. How about that on SNY? And then always on WFAN Daily and on the Rico Bronya, because Evan is nuts and can't go a day without talking about the Mets. And that's why I love him. Thank you again for following. Thank you again for listening to another episode of WFAN Daily with Pete Hoffman. Please like, subscribe. Also, go and follow me at Hoff, WFAN. That's at WFAN on X, on Twitter, which is the same thing, Instagram, and TikTok. Please go and do that. I appreciate you. I'll see you guys mañana. Take care. Thankfully, the NFL season